Good morning to all our viewers. Welcome to Straight Talk. I am Komfie Manalo, and co-hosting with me is Mr. Teddy Montelibano. We've been hearing a lot about revenge traveling, and there's a surge in domestic and foreign travel since April. The
Yes.
tourism industry has been reporting a big surge in travel, and people are spending money to travel, and they don't care. In fact, some of them don't really care how much they spend as long as
Yeah.
they travel. After 2 years of being locked at home, I mean
So
they're not
there's
doing it.
revenge travel.
Yeah, and so the in thing now is revenge travel. So
Yeah.
to give us more insight about how the tourism industry in the country is bouncing back to life after
Two
the
year, 2 years.
devastations caused by the pandemic. Today we will have Mr. Jose Clemente III, the President of Tourism Congress of the Philippines, which was created under the Republic Act 9593 or the New Tourism Law. TCP is the private sector consultative body which assists the government in the development and the implementation of tourism policies. The TCP is composed of representatives from the tourism department, or tourism industry all over the country, including former secretaries of tourism. So, good morning, Sir
Good
Clemente.
morning, John. Mr. Clemente.
Good
Yes.
morning, Comfy. Good morning, Teddy.
So,
To our
How
viewers.
exactly can we know? How exactly is the TCP, Tourism Congress of the Philippines, assisting DOT?
Well, for tourism policies, no, not only the DOT, but actually for the national government, we're the consultative body for the tourism stakeholders.
Yes.
So basically, we act as sort of the think tank for inputs, for sentiments coming from the tourism stakeholders. So when they come up with new laws, new regulations, we do give our inputs as to how it would affect the tourism industry, the stakeholders, and also propose ways of doing all of these things.
Because the TCP is not only, the TCP is really made up of stakeholders in the tourism industry, So you would have resort owners there, travel agents, tour operators, and all that. So you have a fairly good idea of what's happening in the industry. Are you able to point out issues to the government and give out or give out possible recommendations how to solve these problems?
Yeah. Well, as Kwamfi mentioned during the introduction, we do represent all the sectors of the tourism industry, and based on that, whenever we are asked for input, we do make it a point to consult with our stakeholders as to their general feelings, and not only the individual stakeholders, but we also have various tourism associations that are members representing the different sectors. So it's pretty much an inclusive body. So we're able to give holistic inputs whenever we're asked to submit recommendations for certain policies and laws.
so this consultation among the industry players, stakeholders, I'm sure this is a two-way traffic. So the TCP makes recommendation, and of course the government regulators will also be providing inputs to the industry. So have you met with the new secretary, and has she laid down her plans for the industry?
Well, we have met with Secretary Frasco about 2 months ago, and we had a very healthy exchange of the concerns of the industry moving forward from the pandemic.
Yes.
And, she addressed the concerns. She will be meeting with other departments also that are relevant to our concerns. And hopefully we can meet again sometime in the future for feedback on that. With regard to her new strategies, and we've seen some of the ideas coming out in the last 100 days or so that they've been at the DOT, and one of the things that we really welcomed was the retention of "It's More Fun in the Philippines." It's something that the stakeholders feel very strongly about. And we were a bit concerned when there was the talk of maybe changing it. But now that the announcement was made that we're retaining it, then we're happy about it. And we're more than happy also to give more ideas on how we can make it
More fun in the
more
Philippines.
fun. Yeah.
So there's just follow-up question because regarding that more fun in the Philippines. You've had several slogans before, like the Wow Philippines and Festa Island Philippines. But why did you say that the industry feels stronger with this new slogan, the more fun in the Philippines?
Yes, why?
Well, it's more fun in the Philippines really work because it encapsulates not only what the country is about in terms of activities, in terms of the destination, the attractions, but it also encapsulates the people. By nature, Filipinos like to have fun. And we like having visitors. And when we have visitors, want them to have fun also. And so it totally describes us. It's come to the point now in the years that we've been using It's More Fun in the Philippines that when you mention the word fun to our partners abroad, immediately the association is with the Philippines. Yeah. And it also poses a challenge to them. Parang it's more fun in the Philippines. Siyempre, they ask, why? Why don't you come and discover why? So parang their curiosity is piqued by why are you saying that it's more fun in the Philippines? When they come here, they discover it's more fun in the Philippines. So, ang maganda din, and the nice thing about It's More Fun is that the buy-in was not only from the stakeholders, but even the general public bought into that statement. So remember during the time of Secmon Jimenez when they were soliciting for images that sort of captures It's More Fun in the Philippines. The submissions from the regular person, yung sa mga Instagram, ang dami.
Not really.
So people really were into that idea. And that's why it made it more effective. And it's a good conversation point, a good conversation starter for us as well when we talk to our partners abroad or people who are curious about the Philippines.
But that's a challenge, Joe. No, I think, Komfie, I think that's also, well, it's a challenge because right now we're looking at all these doomsday scenario, with coming out of the pandemic, but there might be pandemic, but there might be COVID-19 lurking still, and then just all this talk about, inflation, recession in the world market, in the world economy. So that's a big challenge. I would like to see how how the OT and even maybe if they allow the general public to have to contribute inputs, how
Well, I agree. It's a big challenge, but in the same way, it also forces us to really come out with our creative juices and to perpetuate that image of It's More Fun despite of all of these things happening. We cannot deny naman, of course, many things are happening around the world, but in the same token, why is Singapore still uniquely at this time? Why is India still incredible during these times?
incredibly
Why is Thailand still amazing during this time? So, kanya-kanyang ano yan, kanya-kanyang strategy yan on how they will continue to promote their countries.
Okay. Now, okay, I just want to say something about that the recently concluded 48th Philippine Business Conference and Expo, which was organized at the PCCI. The message that they conveyed to the public was that, and especially to foreign investors, to the world, is that the Philippines is open and ready for business. Are we really? Is the tourism industry really ready for the whole world? Are we open and ready for business in the tourism industry?
In general, Teddy, yes, we are open, and we have been open since February. We have gotten more than we were really expecting. As of the end of September, the Philippines has already had more than 1.5 million foreign visitors. And with the current trend that we're seeing, we'll probably reach about 2.1 million by the end of 2022.
Is this domestic tourism or
Combined. No, sorry, that's foreign.
foreign visitors?
Foreign visitors, yes. And initially, before we reopened, I was also being asked now by certain media outlets what my projections were. I was only talking about 1 million, 1.2, considering.
When was that?
Oh gosh, around February, March, people were, I was being asked how many people do you think will get into the Philippines by the end of this year? Sabi ko, maybe 1.2 million.
Very conservative.
Very conservative kasi there's a lot of X factors.
Yeah.
But when we reopened February 10 and then with the initial number of people that came in and then build up, build up, build up. I was like, wow, this is really more than we were expecting. So we're averaging about 200,000 or more arrivals per month
month.
now. So if we project that towards the last 3 months of the year, that's another 600,000. So tama, we'll probably hit about 2.1 million by the end of the year.
Yesterday, President Marcos was in Bacolod, and again, he reiterated the contribution of the tourism industry in the national coffers, and he's putting too much hope in the tourism industry that will help our economy. So, question is, in relation to are we ready for business? Is the tourism industry in the Philippines really capable of uplifting uplifting our economy? And how much do you think the tourism industry's opportunities present to help our economy?
Okay. I'll throw you some numbers, Komfie. No? In 2019, prior to the pandemic, tourism contributed about 13% to GDP.
Wow.
Okay.
Almost 3 trillion pesos to national revenues, international and domestic combined.
3 trillion.
3 trillion. We employed 5.5 million direct employment. And that constitutes about 10% of total employment in the Philippines. So, and plus the fact that we generate foreign exchange, which we will badly need moving forward, no, as the effects of the pandemic.
3 trillion out of how many visitors?
Well, that's domestic and international combined. So I don't have the domestic figures in my head, but we had about 8.6 million foreign visitors.
8.6
Foreign
million
visitors in 2019.
In 2019.
So,
Pre-pandemic.
makikita natin really the effect is profound. Moving forward now from the pandemic, we can really see that tourism, if given the proper resources or the appropriate resources, we can continue to build on that momentum. Nasira lang during the pandemic. But based on the trade shows that we attended in 2019, early 2020, all of the comments that we were getting from our partners abroad, the Philippines was really poised for a breakout year sana, 2020, 2021. I was already projecting that we would be doing about 12 to 13 million by the end of 2021. And then pataas na ng pataas yan. It should have been going up. So, again, if you use and domestic travel would also continue to increase. Because at that time, airline rates domestic airline fares were really cheap. Accommodations were giving out really nice promos for local, and it's become a necessity na eh. Whereas before it was a luxury, now for Filipinos it's become a way of life already. So we were really expecting a lot more from tourism moving forward. But flash forward to 2022, we're seeing that the mobility is still there. The interest from international countries continues to be high on the Philippines. So I think we will really recover at least pre-pandemic numbers by 2024. But at the same time, we're also generating a lot of revenue already for the country.
We forgot to mention Komfie. He knows what he's talking about, Mr. Clemente, because he's also, his family owns one of the oldest travel agencies in the country, which is Raja. No?
Yeah, it's our
So
it's our 50th,
you know exactly
50th
what you're
year
talking
in
about.
business.
Especially
Yeah.
when you said our partners abroad. So you're talking about, other travel agents, your counterparts overseas. No?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. But that's a very interesting figure. I mean, that's a very interesting fact. Out of 8 million, we made $3 trillion.
Well, factor in the domestic market.
$3 trillion.
Yeah. More or less.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you imagine if you just meet, if we approximate those figures again? I mean, this is pre-pandemic, and
The figure he's mentioned was just the direct benefits.
Yeah.
Because the indirect benefits or the indirect employment of the tourism industry is much higher.
Yeah. I mentioned 5.5 million direct employment. I haven't even talked about the ancillary industries that It's
the
affected by tourism.
souvenir
yeah, the
shops.
souvenir shops,
Farmers,
or the
fishermen.
farmers,
Yeah.
or the tattoo
Tattoo
artists,
artists, yeah.
So
the
it's
breeders.
So we're probably talking of about 9 to 10 million direct and indirect beneficiaries of tourism. And to think about it, we're only using really still the same destinations that we've used through the years. The Philippines still has so many other
Yes, I agree with
destinations
you.
to
I agree with
offer.
you.
Diba?
earlier we were talking off camera. You were talking about your advocacy for Mindanao.
Yes.
Because Mindanao is, I think, well, it's always the Visayas or but Mindanao is a very interesting destination or potential destination area that nobody seems to be really talking about. What are your thoughts about Mindanao?
I've been to Mindanao twice in the last month or so, and well, specifically Region 10 and Region 11. And during my visit, I really see um, how Mindanao can be like the top
Yeah.
destination in the Philippines. Mind you, Mindanao's always been one of my advocacies. I truly believe that if Mindanao is sort of like settled and meaning to say in a peace and order perception,
Yeah.
it can really be the top destination in the Philippines kasi you have ecotourism,
Yeah.
you have food, you have culture, you have history, you have the beaches there.
Yeah.
Ang daming pwedeng gawin sa Mindanao, and the people, the stakeholders in these areas are really solid, and they're really gung-ho on promoting
And it's
their
cheap there.
regions. And it's cheaper, yeah, the food.
Cheaper,
The food,
no?
cheap.
Why
And even
do
the
we-
merchandising.
Yeah, why do we go to Davao, di ba?
Yeah.
To eat panga, to eat
Yeah,
tuna
yeah,
at how much
fantastic.
na?
And even the most violent places there, like Tawi-Tawi. Ang ganda-ganda nun.
Ang ganda.
Ganda-ganda nun.
There have already been stakeholders who have gone to Tawi-Tawi, to Basilan, to do
Sulu,
validation.
in Sulu, no?
Yeah, to do validation tours. And we are all agreed now, this is a wow place.
Wow place.
It's just really a matter of getting the perception and perhaps the actual situation to be more palatable
Yeah,
to
and
tourists.
Mindanao has been getting a lot of bad rep. Like,
Yeah.
when you talk of Mindanao, akala na buong Mindanao magulo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like in Luzon.
yeah.
Kapag magulo sa Bulacan, hindi man magulo sa
Exactly.
Pampanga. Hindi man magulo sa Tarlac. So magulo sa Sulu.
Yeah.
Ang napaka-peaceful sa
Yeah,
Davao.
yeah.
Sa Cagayan de Oro.
I'll give you an idea, Komfie, of what we do. No, when we go to trade shows, we usually have a map of the Philippines that we present to our. So, syempre, they ask, well, what about Mindanao? I says, what about it? Oh, we've heard of these places that are, where kidnappings and so on and so forth. So I do a circle. This is Davao City. This is where it happened. And how many kilometers? It's hundreds of kilometers away. And then they're like, oh, okay. Or this is Cagayan de Oro up here. And this is where it happened. Ah, okay. So it gives them a better idea. The main challenge that we have for Mindanao is that some countries still have travel advisories that probably need to be updated because they still paint a picture of maybe where they were 5-10 years ago. And the technical problem there is that these travel advisories also affect where people can travel in terms of some companies will not issue travel insurance if you visit those areas.
Correct, yeah.
So yun ang problema. I mean, parang travel at your own risk. But if we can sort of update the travel advisories, then, we'll probably get more traffic into Mindanao.
Whose responsibility is that?
Well,
I mean, updating the travel advisories.
not as an expert in government, but I would think the DFA,
TFA. Yeah.
the DOT would also have a part in convincing these foreign governments to reassess or reevaluate parts of Mindanao.
Talking about foreign travel, Mr. Clemente, do you think the world is ready? As I said again, right, the Philippines made a big show out of that recently concluded conference
Yeah.
with the PCCI, what's saying that the Philippines is ready and open for business, but is the world ready to travel? I mean, you're looking at all of this, all of this dark, this recession, inflation, whatever.
Well, as I was
What have you heard from your,
Okay.
again, from your,
Partners.
any feedback from
Yeah.
your partners of,
Well, again, as we were discussing off cam kanina, I'm actually more wary now of the situation in the Ukraine rather than COVID. The only reason being that petroleum prices continue to go up as a direct result of what's happening in the Ukraine. And although people are still traveling now, they're still in revenge travel mode because they saved up for 2 years. They might have taken vacations, pero it's just a close vacations. But it's a major step for them now to travel halfway across the world. So now it's still okay because they still have the resources, they still have the money to travel. But what we're looking at now is what will be the threshold for them to consider staying closer to home or traveling farther. What we have been getting in the Philippines, luckily, since we reopened, was that we're getting the long-haul markets from Europe, from North America, which are the markets that we really want because these are the long-stay people. These are the ones who have more resources to spend. So gustong-gusto natin yan. But again, going into 2023, if the situation persists, at what point do they say, I'll stay closer to home? So that's what we're wary about. But in terms of the question, are they ready to travel? Yes, they are. Even we, sa domestic travel, we are ready to travel.
Abroad.
Yeah. The cruise lines are now making a lot of money. We're seeing just for example, Philippine Airlines is putting back more frequencies online to other countries.
Short haul. No?
Short haul. Some foreign carriers are now increasing their frequencies to the Philippines again.
Correct, yeah.
So all signals point to a nice recovery. Just hopefully lang the situation gets more stable.
Yeah, we have a very interesting discussion with Mr. Clemente and Teddy, but we have to pause for a short break, and we will be back, and we can talk more.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Sa likod ng aming mga pagsisikap, hangad namin ang maiangat ang bawat Pilipino. Magbigay pag-asa. Maging kaagapay sa pagbangon, katuwang sa pag-abot ng pangarap. At maging lakas at sandigan ng isang masigasig na bayan. PAGCOR, creating opportunities beyond gaming.
Introducing the new MGHS. Drive it, ride it, flex it. Aim higher with the new MGHS.
Josel Dariaga po.
At may taba sa David.
Good news! Sa kabila ng pagtaas ng mga bilihin, bumaba ng 7 centavos ang rates ngayong October. 9 pesos and 86 centavos per kilowatt hour ang overall electricity rates. Dahil ito sa decrease sa feed-in tariff for renewable energy at bawas singil ng generation companies na naka-offset sa paghina ng piso. Nasa 15 pesos ang bawas sa bill ng karaniwang bahay. Paalala po, lalo na ngayon, excited tayong maghandaan uli sa Pasko after 2 years. Ugaliin pa rin nating maging energy efficient para handa tayo kung sakaling magpatuloy ang pagtaas ng global fuel prices, inflation at paghina ng piso.
Tama, lumalaki ang mga gastusin. Scary.
Ako? Never scared. Pati sa bills.
Ganyan pag energy efficient. Gaya nito, habang mainit ang food, huwag i-ref para hindi hirap ang makina. At kung di puno, ibaba ang setting from high to mid. 202 pesos ang monthly savings.
Kung bibili naman ng new ref, hindi porke mas maliit, mas matipid.
Huh?
Ang portable mini ref na 0.35 cubic feet, mas makonsumo kaysa 7 cubic feet.
Alamin ang konsumo ng appliances with the Meralco Mobile App's Appliance Calculator.
Iwas bills care!
May tanong tungkol sa bill o Meralco services? Video chat tayo.
Mag-book ng appointment anytime sa aming website. Hanggang sa susunod na Meralco Advisory.
And we're back. You're still watching Straight Talk with Teddy Montelibano, and we're still with Mr. Jose Clemente. Sir Jose, during the break, we talked about inflation and how
It's like it's a good
is that
thing.
impacting positively the travel industry?
Yeah.
Okay. The devaluation of the peso is actually favorable for the tourism industry. Kasi parang we're like exporters. So with the devaluation of the peso, we're able to keep the prices of tours to the Philippines a little bit lower, less expensive. And that ties into what I was talking about earlier with regard to threshold of traveling. So right now we're still able to hold the line as far as the interest vis-a-vis the budget of travelers. We're one of those industries that actually sort of benefits from the devaluation of the peso. So
Because
that it helps us in a way.
the foreign travelers have more peso now.
Yeah.
More bang for the
Dollar.
buck,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yeah. And we also help the economy because we generate foreign exchange. I always say that tourism is really one of the fastest and easiest ways to generate foreign exchange for the country.
Let's talk about targets. The country, I mean, of late we've heard some government officials still talking about the possibility, or a little, shall I say, enamored about the Chinese market because of, well, understandably because of the numbers. No? But isn't there any other country that we're targeting other than the Chinese market?
Well, in a way, it's understandable that we're looking at the China market because it was our number 2 market.
What was the first?
Korea.
South
Oh,
Korea.
Okay. South Korea.
So that's a big chunk of arrivals that you've taken out without the Chinese market. But in the same token, we're also discovering, well, aside from Europe, our top arrivals come from the UK, from Germany, from France, Italy. We're also discovering other new countries in Europe that come here now. We have the Netherlands now. Even the Eastern European countries, despite of what's going on, there's still interesting. Bulgaria, and then other countries like South Africa.
Russians.
Yes,
Even
some of the
before
Russians are still.
before the Ukraine-Russia
And
conflict. No?
very interesting, we're also starting to get inquiries from countries in Latin America. Okay, so these are countries that we've been promoting to for years. Na is just starting to bear fruition now. So I'm not saying that they would equal what the China market gives us, but in a way, it sort of makes up for a certain percentage of it. And the nice thing about it is that these are new markets that can still be mined moving forward.
Well, maybe the Chinese market may be huge in terms of numbers, but in terms of actual contribution to the coffers, I mean,
Spending.
Yeah, well,
Who's the biggest spender?
expenditures.
Yeah.
well, the biggest spenders are the Europeans. I mentioned earlier, we really like them because they stay here for a minimum of 2 weeks.
How long stay sila?
Yeah, these 2 weeks, and then they spend. No? They eat, they drink, they have fun,
Yes.
and they really contribute to the economy. Now, not to say that the China market or the other Asian markets don't, but of course, as Asians, we know naman our spending threshold is also limited.
Yeah. What about
So-
the Japanese?
Well, the Japanese, we're still not experiencing the numbers that we used to.
wonder why.
Japan used to be number 4, if I'm not mistaken. They're still trying to resolve some of their issues with COVID. But we've already been receiving feelers about resuming outbound travel towards the first quarter of next year or even later this year. So, baka mag-umpisa na in trickles, maybe around the fourth quarter, and then first quarter, hopefully, we start recovering that market as well.
What about the U.S.? I mean, one would think that Americans would like to travel to the Philippines because of the sentimental ties.
I think it's no secret that the numbers that we get from the U.S. are mostly our balikbayans. But then again, when I think about it, is that I don't really consider them as balikbayans anymore. As far as I'm concerned, they're tourists. Kasi when they come here naman, they take the family, they go to Boracay, or even if they just go to Tagaytay, that's still tourism. They go to Batangas, that's still tourism. So, there should be no, ano na lang, maybe it's just for the sake of classification lang, no? But the mainstream American market, they have alternatives kasi. They also travel domestically quite broadly. And then if you talk about beaches, and there's Hawaii, there's the Caribbean. So what we get from the US are more of the niche markets, no? Business missions, World War II or historical trips, things like that. And then what we're focusing on for the American market are like the third, fourth, fifth generation Filipinos who want to discover their roots. Diba? They want to find out about their family. And we've seen it already na they're so amused, especially yung mga Phil-Ams, when they come here, they're like, oh, I have relatives here pala. Hey, we're first cousins, or yung ganon ba. And they discover more. And the more they discover more about their roots, their culture, where they come from, it touches their hearts. Gamitin na lang natin si Jokoy, di ba? He talks about the Philippines a lot. And I think that's also like spurred a lot of interest from the third, fourth, fifth generation Filipinos to come home and see what he's talking about, di ba? So that's a good thing. Out of North America, Canada is quite strong. And this is the mainstream market. Halos pareho ang nature ng Canadians to the Europeans. They stay here for a few days, they spend, they drink, they eat.
But I guess also for people from Europe and Canada, especially cold countries, they like the weather here.
Well, that's what we're expecting for the winter season. December, January, February, that's really the peak period for the Philippines.
So these Canadians and this European market, where do they usually go here? What's their favorite destinations in the Philippines?
Well, the usual, no? Boracay, El Nido, Palawan, Bohol, Cebu. Now we're sending them to other far-flung places like Dumaguete, Siquijor even. And that's why I keep on advocating that we should really start developing the other destinations.
Like Carabao Island.
Carabao Island, Romblon, Marinduque, Bicol region even.
Bicol,
yeah. So, ang dami pa
Even Rizal Tanay, Taytay. Ang dami maganda dyan.
Kasi when we go abroad, we always talk about the Philippines having more than 7,000 islands. But how many of these islands do we really use? Pangasinan pa. Ang dami. So it's just a matter of really developing this area.
Is trying to position itself now.
Mindanao pa. We talk about Mindanao. Pantabangan Dam.
Ang dami maganda.
Aliraya.
So I guess that leads up to yung discussion natin off-cam about developing all of these places and people investing in the Philippines. Even yung mga mayayaman na Phil-Am. So put up a bed and breakfast somewhere. Plan to retire in the Philippines, put up a bed and breakfast. There are still certain areas in the Philippines where land is cheap. And you can actually put up a nice little property. It doesn't have to be a 5-star hotel.
I should tell my sister that she's had a very good life in Canada, and now they're thinking of coming home. Maybe they should do that, no? Put up a B&B rather than just put up a house. For them to retire in, rather. Okay, we're talking about infrastructure. How is our infrastructure situation in terms of currently in terms of the tourism industry? Do we have enough good rooms? Do you have? One thing I noticed. I used to go Roro. I'm very curious about. I like long trips, and then but the thing about Roro, I'm always telling myself, I cannot bring women or the women folk in the family won't be able to stand this. There's no
I thought you want to bring women with you.
there's no decent restroom facilities. I mean, why is it like that? Don't they think of when they? Roro is fantastic, but I mean, why not? Thinking about the restrooms.
The tourism industry kasi is such a broad industry that there's always something that you can think of, something that you can build. I'll give you an example for what we call the MICE industry, the meetings, incentives, conventions, exhibitions. You think about it, do we even have a mega complex that has an integrated exhibition and meeting space? Wala. Big
Diba?
that can compete.
SMAX?
No,
Sure.
no, but let's talk about mega complexes that can compete with the ones in Singapore,
Okay.
Like even the one in say,
the ones in China. Oh, the ones in China. Kulang pa rin eh.
Bukati is not mice. I mean, it's not an
And-
ideal mice
Well,
venue.
it can be for smaller smaller events. But if we want to attract the mega events to come to the Philippines, diba, it only comes natural that you have a big meeting area. You have a big exhibition area. Build the hotels around those areas. It's in the tourism industry is probably the industry where the adage na if you build it, they will come holds true. Gusto natin mag-compete sa MICE. And our MICE industry here in the Philippines, we're all very gung-ho. Problema natin, facilities.
Yeah.
Once you step out of Metro Manila,
Cebu, wala. Bacolod,
you're still
Iloilo.
using the hotels. Well, Iloilo, you have the convention center, but it's still not big enough.
No, not big enough. Yeah.
Come closer to home. Clark is a no-brainer as far as having that mega complex is concerned. Where is
There's
it?
none.
There's none yet.
Subic, wala.
Wala. And MICE is also a multiplier in terms of
Baguio.
visitor arrivals.
yeah.
Yes.
So that's another how many millions you can add in a year if you had all of these places. Some countries and some cities in Europe, in the United States, in here in ASEAN, they make a lot of tourism revenue because they are able to host these mega events, mega exhibitions, mega meetings.
We don't, speaking of facilities, you mentioned we don't have facilities for those mega events. But then our planners from the DOTR have prioritized the establishment or the construction of too many airports in Metro Manila. Like you now have the of course the NAIA, and then there's the one Bulacan being developed by San Miguel, and then there's
Clark.
another one in Cavite, and then you also have Clark. So do we have?
I mean, Bulacan and Cavite and Clark's contiguous each other.
Do we have the numbers to accommodate all the incoming, anticipated incoming passengers or travelers?
If
That's
there's
sort
no,
of-
if there's no infrastructure, how can they come here? Even
It's
if you
sort of
have-
chicken and the egg. We can always talk about building airports here, building an airport there. But
accommodation.
again, no, three factors to consider. Number one, do you have the two-way traffic to sustain those airports?
Because what do you mean by two-way? I mean, the airlines.
Incoming and
The
outgoing.
airlines would think that
Yeah.
if they land in,
yeah.
they land
I
in
think-
Bulacan,
Yeah.
they have or
Passengers
land
also
Yeah.
from Bulacan.
Remember, having an airport doesn't mean people just coming in. You also need to have people that will go out to sustain the operation of airlines coming in and out. And then number two, do we have favorable conditions to attract these carriers to come in terms of parking fees, landing fees, CIQ? Are we competitive with the other ASEAN destinations? No? Just
because
to
the
narrow
airlines
it
will have
down.
to spend about for all
That's
of those.
out of pocket expense nila yun eh. Number three, would you have the traffic within the area of the airport to sustain it? Do you have? Will you be servicing a big enough area so that operations of an airport is viable? So arguments can be made for and against. But ako, maybe it needs to be really studied. Where can we strategically put airports that will really benefit destinations?
And then also, for instance, building, you have all the money in the world, you want to build in, was that Langley? What?
Sangli.
Sangli.
Sangli,
So,
in Cavite.
I mean, but who's gonna, I mean, if I'm in Metro Manila, how do I get there? I don't want to use my car. I mean, I want to have like a modern, fast, like checked up cock, for instance, like a railway system.
Yeah.
It's like checked up cocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or even Bulacan. How do I get there?
Well, that's where our discussions about infrastructure really would revolve around this. What are your support infrastructures for all of
Also,
these
even
things?
for tourists. So
Even for tourists,
how would they be transported to where they want to stay?
Yeah. Well, let's
They're
take Clark
billeted.
for as an example. No? We've been talking about a dedicated skyway and a train system that will
Yeah.
take you from Pampanga to Metro Manila in a matter of maybe an hour or hour and a half at most.
Yeah.
that should have also been built while that airport was being built.
Correct. Yeah.
Para sabay yung pagtaas ng infrastructure na yun. You're talking of so many other places, no? Like we're talking about Mindanao as possibly being a good destination. So what airports, major airports do you have there? You have Laguindingan,
Davao.
you have Davao. Okay.
Yeah.
So what other infrastructure do you have around those places to sustain the demand? So infrastructure is something that ano yan simultaneous dapat yan eh. You can't build one first and then the other one later on.
Yeah.
All has to be done.
It's an integrated.
Integrated lahat yan. And that's what some of our neighbors, our better our neighbors that are doing much better in terms of figures, that's what they have. They really have integrated and well thought out tourism infrastructure support.
Yeah, it's true. So we have a lot to think about. I just hope that the policymakers in the tourism industry are cognizant of this. Have done the due diligence.
Yeah.
And all
Well,
that,
tourism really is an industry that can really contribute to the economy.
Yeah.
I think everyone recognizes that. And one of the things lang that we really keep getting frustrated about is how much resources are being put into tourism. In the last budget hearing, we were only given 3.5 billion pesos.
Oh my goodness.
Considering that
12.5 billion.
3.5
They proposed 12.5 billion.
3.5 billion, I think sometimes is just a budget of 1 month, let's say for Thailand.
Oh, wow.
So
So in this administration, how much was given to tourism?
3.5 billion pesos for the whole year.
Yeah,
What is the Secretary of Transport going to do with 3 billion?
Well, that's the same question I'm asking.
Oh,
also.
only for marketing.
No,
Yeah.
it's,
You need a
the
lot of
budget for
marketing.
tourism is
It's like
3.5
the operation of the office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
OPEX.
How can you have a tourism
Diba?
office if you don't have
But you don't even have a budget for marketing there.
advertising? Advertising.
And yeah, I agree with you that
Advertising marketing.
in all industries, the tourism industry has the most number of ancillary industries. Yeah, it can benefit as many indirect employment. There's no other industry that can tap that.
Tour guides,
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
those.
The good thing about us through the years is that even though tourism's budget has towards been the lower end of the spectrum.
Was it cheaper? How is it compared to the previous administration? How was
Maybe slightly higher.
that slightly
Ngayon,
higher?
slightly higher. Kasi ang tendency mo naman is for it to go higher
Tax pa lang.
every year. But, the nice thing lang about tourism is that we get more tourists per peso spent on marketing as compared to our neighbors. So they may have X billions of dollars to spend on tourism. But let's say tayo, we only have hundreds of millions of dollars, not pesos, but dollars. But compared, let's say to a dollar-to-dollar comparison, we bring in more tourists compared to every dollar that they spend. So,
It's not so.
yun lang ang maganda. So, you just imagine na lang how much more we can do with a bigger budget. So, that's just something that frustrates us a little bit.
Okay.
How about the destination itself? Like the recent incident in Bohol, I think. Yeah, there's a sandbar there that they were overcharged.
It's a Virgin Island.
Yeah, Virgin Island. So
What is that again? Could you refresh your...
There's this sandbar just off of Bohol, off of Panglao. It's called Virgin Island. So on this island, pag low tide, it's really a nice sandbar.
Okay.
So a lot of entrepreneurial kababayans of ours put up food stalls. Anything from seafood to selling merienda, mga turon, all of that. But the thing is, they really priced it too high.
too high.
Now, not for me to question what their expenses were, but someone complained about it. So that led to the LGU totally
to get rid of it.
get rid of all of those. So now I think they're keeping Virgin Island like pure sandbar na lang siya.
So how does those incidents affect our image abroad?
Well, ano naman yan
Because it's not confined to Bohol, those kinds of incidents. Like even in La Union, I mean,
yeah. Well,
prices are too
Yeah.
expensive. Yeah, too practical.
I've
Yeah.
known
Well,
your
to be
prices,
fair,
so it's-
it doesn't only happen in the Philippines. It also happens in other countries. It's just that maybe we also highlight it too much.
talk about Boracay and
Yeah,
Siargao.
pwede namang we can always keep it on the down low. Then just have the LGU take action. No more need to really trumpet it. But even when we go abroad, diba, we get all of these things naman. People who go to Rome, what's Filipinos who go to Rome, you always get pickpocketed, you always get snatched.
It's true.
Everyone knows it happens all the time,
but
so
you
that's
still
why.
go.
But you still go. So it's just a matter of presentation, I suppose.
Yeah. Comparative advantages. What do we have I mean, what do we have compared to the if foreign visitors are really a little bit more conservative about are more careful about spending their money. Now, if they want to go to Asia, why would they go to the Philippines rather than Thailand
Or Bali.
or the usual Bali,
Okay.
Indonesia? No? Bali is fantastic, man.
In a study done by McKinsey, one of the top 2 reasons, I forgot what the number 1 reason is, but the number 2 reason they come here is because of the people. It's either they've heard of our
Is our
hospitality.
personality really
Yeah.
marketable
Oh
commodity?
yeah. Or for the repeaters, it's because they really love the way Filipinos are. Parang wala tayong boundaries kasi eh. We sort of treat visitors like family. And they love that about us. They really feel the warmth of the Filipinos. Number 2, our language. We speak English. Some of us may not speak perfect English, pero we understand.
Understandable.
Our signs are in English. So, ang hirap mawala dito. And you can basically talk to anyone and get to where you want to go. Number 3, we really do have some of the best beaches around the world. Even around the region.
That's true.
I've been to all the other places around ASEAN, and with all due respect to our neighboring countries, I really wouldn't exchange our sand and sea
Not even
for
Bali, no?
theirs.
Not even Bali.
Ayoko na mag-mention, but
But Bali's other attractions. I mean, beautiful.
they may be ahead in terms of infrastructure, in
Yeah.
terms of development.
boy, I mean,
But if
Bali's
we can get
numbers.
our act together as far as really developing our resources, oh man, we can be competing
Or
so
the
hard.
nightlife.
Stunning beaches. Nightlife, meron na.
Nightlife, that's because the,
Oh, yeah.
the tourists,
Ikaw, Komfie,
that's one of the
bata,
things that
binata
tourists
ka
look
pa,
for.
eh.
The nightlife, the night
Yeah,
scene.
yeah. The nightlife, and then coming out of the pandemic now, so one of the trends that are coming out is that people prefer experiential activities, more open spaces. That's what we have. So it really fits perfectly into our profile. It's just a matter really of us getting the word out, being aggressive again
Yes.
in marketing.
Well, we have to be very, very optimistic about, getting the word out with 3 billion peso budget.
Yeah. We find ways.
Yeah, yeah. Parang narinig ko rin sa bangko.
One thing about the Philippine tourism industry is that we're very, for lack of a better word, and I hate using the word resilient, but we are.
Oh, yeah.
That's what describes us. Through all of the ups and downs that we've gone through, we continue to survive.
Yeah.
We continue to thrive.
Ang kulit ng mga Pilipino. Like even
Makulit.
during the time of the pandemic, there was supposed to be lockdowns, diba? But you go to beaches, you go to Batangas.
Patago.
Puno-puno pag weekend.
Patago.
Puno-puno yun.
Even Tagaytay, the
Even
traffic in Tagaytay.
Sabi na bawal.
Grabe.
Sige.
They're not supposed to be there, but there are thousands of people there.
Sasabihin, bawal bata. And then makikita mo sa Facebook, boss, reko naman. Anong restaurant tumatanggap ng bata?
Yeah, right.
Sabi na nga, wag tumanggap ng bata. So,
yeah.
those things.
So the economy sila, no?
In terms of resiliency, look at Boracay.
Yeah.
The way, I was in Boracay for the pandemic. I mean, 2 years, almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
There was really nothing there, but how they bounced back.
Sabi ko nga, I don't like using that word resiliency anymore. Kasi
Abuse na siya.
abuse na siya eh. Parang sa akin synonymous na with matiisin. Bakit mo kailangan magtiis? Di ba? Shouldn't you be...
Pero that's what we are, eh.
Yeah,
Diba?
yeah, that's what we are.
That's
So,
what we are.
yeah. So, yeah.
So overview, what's
Well,
except for except for some critical issues that are happening abroad. What are your thoughts about tourism in the next, let's say, 5 years?
well,
Philippine
I
tourism
think I
industry.
mentioned earlier, we should be back to pre-pandemic levels by 2024. We still have our challenges, but tourism has always had its challenges, even without the war in the Ukraine, even without the pandemic. We've had our concerns. We've had 9/11, we'd have SARS, we'd have all of these things, but we continue. We just keep on plugging. I think we'll be able to get into more markets now that the world is sort of looking at new places to visit. I mentioned Latin America earlier.
The new markets.
Yeah, naghahanap sila. They're looking for new places to visit. So the Philippines plays into that. What else? People will continue to look for new experiences, and we have been able to develop new experiences or new activities during the time of the pandemic. No, amazingly, a lot of the regions were able to develop new circuits because we had the time to go around and reassess what we have, and so there's a lot more activities that we can offer now that weren't available prior to the pandemic, just because it necessitated the pandemic, or moving forward from the pandemic necessitated us to also develop new products. So so that should be able to draw in more tourists.
Oh, now one thing that I forgot to ask you. When you said that you were advocating for Mindanao, which part of Mindanao?
Well, I
defend?
particularly have been to Region 10 and Region 11 recently. Region 10 being the Cagayan de Oro, Camiguin, Bukidnon area. Region 11 is Davao. So you have all the Davao provinces there. I think those are the most ready for tourism. And one thing going about it is that the people are quite nice. And you have all the attractions that you need
Yeah, it's
to
relatively
really...
cheap there.
And it's
Also,
relatively
good diving,
cheap.
no?
Good diving, yeah, in Camiguin.
Camiguin.
And
Even
then-
Davao was good.
Even
Davao,
Davao,
yeah.
yeah. Food, of course.
Food,
no?
yes.
And then the culture, the other culture.
Climate-
We have nice
climate is
to
good.
wear.
There are
Yeah.
certain areas where you have mountain resorts, even colder than Baguio pa daw. So sabi
Really?
ko,
Sa
okay,
Davao.
fine, yeah.
Davao.
Sabi ko, good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, in terms of the resources that we have, we don't really we're not behind all the.
In terms of what we can offer as destinations, we are not behind. It's just a matter of developing them and putting up the appropriate infrastructure
Correct.
to make sure that it can sustain and carry tourism.
Yeah, in fact, we have so many undiscovered or unexploited destinations.
Yes.
And I hope you can rationalize the prices better.
That's always a concern.
Yes,
Yeah.
because can you imagine if you have a family of 5 or family of 6
Yeah.
to go to Boracay? Boy, it's like you're going abroad. It's like you're going to Hong
Yeah.
Kong. I think maybe
Well,
cheaper.
That's always a
Yeah.
that's always a point of discussion when you talk about domestic.
Yeah.
So, any parting words?
Well, to our kababayans that are watching, umikot tayo sa sarili nating bansa. There's so much to discover. Ang dami pa natin pwedeng puntahan. Marami pa tayong hindi nakikita. And also, for our stakeholders naman, let's continue to treat our visitors with respect, with the warmth, with the kindness that we've been known for. Continue to promote the Philippines, and remember, it is really more fun in the Philippines.
Correct. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Very good.
That's very good.
Mr.
Thank you.
Clemente, thank you very much for
Thank
your
you, Teddy.
time.
Thank you,
It was a
Komfie.
very good discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Komfie, thank you.
Yeah. Hope to see you again.
Yeah. Follow up tayo.
Yeah, follow up tayo.
And mga katribu, watch us every Tuesday at 10 a.m. on Daily TV's Facebook page and TV Now on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Straight Talk. I am Komfie Manalo,
I'm Teddy Montelibano.
and see you soon.
See you soon.
We would like to thank the following: Araneta, Pag-ibig, SM Supermall, Veteran, Divina Law Offices, ICTSI, Xlog, Globe, Kia, PLDT, Cherry, Tanawan, Prime Homes, RLC, Pure Gold, Meralco, and SM Retail.